aucun mot n'atteint encore la force du silence de la rivière tonnerre au désert des pierres levées. L'espace se balancer, s'efface la distance. Tu dors diamant, toi c'est l'heure de mes nuits, que deviennent vrais tous nos rendez-vous promis. Dans la baie des attentes, j'oubliais me poser, rester là, garder jusqu'au bout des doigts le moindre souvenir de toi. Je dors pourtant, je parcours le temps, ce que je vois n'a rien d'un simple rêve. Mon corps s'alourdit, afraid this is a time for another long story. I just played a tune coming from my love for Irish music and for Ireland. It was called The Voyage pour l'Irlande, The Voyage for Ireland. Did you know that you speak French without knowing it? You do, huh? It's strange because on this tour we went to some old French settlements with French names, but people don't know they are French names. We went to Des Moines. We went to Duluth. And at some point someone said, what does it mean, Des Moines? It means des moines. Des moines? Yeah, monks. Ah, yes. And Duluth, where is this coming from? Duluth. Duluth. Oh, Duluth. Well, I assume, I might be wrong, of course, I assume that the guy who founded that town was a lute player. And he was playing Duluth. Imagine if he had been playing the guitar. It would be called de la guitare. They didn't believe me. I like to confuse people. But I was not the only one confused, in fact, because I remember one of your former president, George W.B., he said something about the French. It was a time when the French didn't want to join the coalition, you know. And so he was talking with his friend, Tony Blair. And he was saying, oh, the French, they are great, but they do have one problem. They do not have a word for entrepreneur. Yeah. I love it. So my guitar comes from Ireland. It's been made by someone who became like a member of my family, but at the very beginning I had no idea who he was. I was playing my first tour of Ireland in 1977 when I was 19 years old, and I was playing on an American guitar made by a luthier from New Hampshire, Michael Goyan. And my guitar was a Goyan, which I bought in Paris in a store owned by my friends Gérard and Jean-Luc Charnot's two brothers. Very eccentric people, fantastic, genius. And so I toured. I did my two first records with that guitar, and I did my tour in Ireland for the first time with that guitar. And after my show, I was in Northern Ireland. I played Dublin, I played Galway, I played Cork, but I also went north and I crossed that border. There was a real border then between Ireland and the northern Ulster, the Northern Ireland, with police, British Army, rifles, M2. I had to take everything out of your car, you know. They had to open the trunk to make sure no one was sneezing the trunk. It was something, especially for a young man like me. It was like, oh my God, what is that? And then arriving in the cities of Northern Ireland, the security was intense. Measures were intense. It was everyone was so uptight, and there were so many bombings and terrorism. It was very strange. And there was one place where the two communities were together. It was music. Like I played in that folk club in Warren Point on the coast, and it was amazing. It was so warm and so incredible. And so after the show, a guy comes to me, his name is Alistair Burke, and he says, I have a friend, he's building guitars, he would have loved to come tonight. He's so sorry he could not make it, but he's hoping you could come to pay him a visit tomorrow morning before you head out. And I told him, I'm sorry, tomorrow morning I have to go back to Dublin first thing. I can't. And so he was sad, he was a bit disappointed, but he asked me if I knew a place in Paris where he could go on my behalf to present his friends' guitars. And I said, yeah, I know a great guitar store, that store where I bought my Goyan. And you go there, you can even mention my name if you want. But yeah, if they like your friend's guitars, this will be the best place. And I forgot about this meeting, and I went home, and months went by. And the phone rings, and it's my friend from the store who said, Gérard, the older of the two brothers, he says, Pierre, we have received 6 guitars from Northern Ireland. You have to come. And I said, it started to ring a bell, you know. So I said, what's the name of the luthier? George Loudon. Oh, George Loudon. Yeah. Okay, yes, that rings a bell, definitely. So I said, so you like them? He said, I adore them. Okay. Well, I'm gonna come. So the next day I took my moped and went to the store. I was hanging in that store at least once a week. You know, it was a base. It was a great place to be. The people working there were my friends. So I went and I saw those 6 guitars on the wall. And they were sort of, it met me later I realized that their beauty was unassuming. It was a sort of very Protestant shy beauty. Like, we are beautiful, but don't pay attention. It's normal. And so just a look, I never saw a guitar like that before. They were very elegant, austere, and they had no really shining polish like on a lot of American guitars. This is what we all knew before, and those guitars were definitely sort of presenting for the first time a European identity. For the first time, as a maker, there are also a lot of luthiers in France and everywhere in Europe. But for some reason, I never saw any guitar like that. So my friend said, are you going to spend your time looking at them? Don't you want to play one? I said, yeah, sure. So I played the 6 of them, and each had a very nice sonic story, very different. And then they gave me George Loudon contact, and I called him the next day. I said, George, I saw your guitars, this is fantastic. He said, thank you again for the contact, Pierre. I said, no worries. And would you build me one? He said, I would love to build you a guitar. So would you build me a guitar taking into account that I'm playing in DADGAD? And so the bass is always down. Job indeed. So if it makes any difference for you, that would be, I don't know, it could create an impact. I'm going to do my best, Pierre, but don't be in a rush, okay? Don't be. I'm going to do this guitar as soon as I can. The next year, in '78, in the spring, the phone rings, and this is Alistair Burke calling me, and he says, I'm in Paris, and I have your guitar, Pierre. Wow, you have my guitar, okay. So we meet downtown Paris, not very far from the store of my friends, and he gives me my first Loudon guitar, which I played thousands of concerts with, and toured the world with many times, and I had only one guitar for 25 years. That was that guitar. And people said, you have only one guitar? I said, yeah, I have only one guitar. What about if you break it? Why would I break my guitar? What about if you lose it? Why would I lose my guitar? People have so strange fears. So yeah, and so after a while, George and I, we will talk about that guitar, and George said, Pierre, how is the old lady? Well, the old lady's fine, George. She's missing you. So why don't you bring her? So yeah, I bring her. So my wife and I, sometimes we go to visit George and to play a few shows in the north. But I didn't go there right away. In the meantime, George built 2 signature models for me. Another, not that guitar. He built a smaller guitar, her brother, in fact. And then he built that one, which is a very, very looking like her mom. She's a copy of the original old lady. This is a new old lady. And so sometimes we bring the 3 guitars to George so that they can see their dad and granddad. And George can see them because it's great for a luthier to see his work, to see how his guitar aged. and what he has to do, how to maintain. I think it's very, very precious for Lucia to be able to make an estimation like that. And so we arrive in Downpatrick, which is on the coast. This is where St. Patrick is down. I didn't know, in fact, but George told me. So one day George and I were having a pint in the height of Downpatrick in a pub, and we have a pint. It's like midday. It's a very beautiful weather for 20 minutes. And we cross the road with our pint and our sandwich. There is a graveyard, a church, and we start walking along the graves. And at some point we sat, we keep drinking, eating, and talk about life. And I said, so George, Downpatrick, this is related to St. Patrick? Yeah. So this is why it's called Downpatrick? So, yeah. So it's down, meaning he's buried here? Yeah, he's buried here. Where is he buried, George? Well, just underneath your butt, Pierre. I was sitting on his grave. That's a small world. Really. Oh well. So we go back to the factory, and my wife and Florence were there. Florence is George's wife. And so George says to us, okay, leave me 2 guitars, take one with you. I'm going to work on them, come back next week, okay? So we have 1 week, and I'm debating which guitar am I going to leave. And in fact, I led her with her mom, and I took her brother. He was very happy. So we cruise around Donegal. I don't know if you've ever been to Ireland. If you've been to Donegal, this is northwest. This is extremely beautiful, unique, almost prehistorical, you know. And we have no plans, so we drive all around the peninsula. And in the south of the peninsula, we see this beautiful beach in a town called Portneuf, and we stop there. We find a room in a hotel. My wife took her accordion. I have her brother. So she plays the accordion in the courtyard of the hotel, and I play my guitar, looking at the beach through the window in our room. At some point she comes up and says, I met 2 people, and they want to meet you. They would like to offer you a pint. I never say no to a pint. And and so, can you come down? Yeah, I came down. I met those people. They were Irish people living in Liverpool in England. And they said to us, you know, tomorrow night, there will be an Irish music session up the road in Ardara, in a pub called the Corner House. You should go and bring your guitar. Great. So the next night, we spent 1 more day in Portneuf, and the next night we went to the Corner House in Ardara, which is also a town where a lot of tweed is being made. The best tweed of Ireland is coming from Donegal, you know. And so we try to enter in the Corner House. The Corner House is the house at the corner. Just in case you wonder. And so the place is jammed. It's a Saturday. We hardly can enter. There are people standing like that, close to the door. The 3 musicians are on the left, 2 guitar players, 1 violin, and there are like 100 people sitting in front of them, and they know so many tunes and so many songs. People ask, Brendan seems to be the leader. Brendan, can you sing that one? Brendan, can you play that one? And every time Brendan sings and plays, he knows them all. Brendan saw we coming in. He saw that I had a guitar with me, and so he sort of saluted us. And after maybe half an hour, we were standing like that, not even being able to approach a bar and to order anything. And after half an hour, he looks at me and he said, would you like to join? And I said, yes, yeah. So we went and sat in front of them. Irish hospitality, 2 pints comes our way of Guinness. My wife doesn't drink Guinness, so that's 2 pints for me. I opened the guitar, her brother, and Brendan said, I've never seen a so beautiful guitar like this, so you should have seen her brother. He loves to show off, but he was so proud. Anyway, so I didn't want to tell Brendan my name. I didn't want, to say I'm Pierre Bensusan. This is my signature guitar model. I've been playing on Loudon guitars for 40 years. I remain extremely elusive, and I said something like, yeah. I hear you, Brendan. I hear you. Me too. I feel the same. I love those guitars. Yeah. So we start to play 1 tune, 2 tunes. I join them. I try to follow. It's a long time I haven't played this kind of music. And after 20 minutes, Brendan asked me, "Do you happen to know any music by Pierre Bensusan?" I said to him, "It's funny you mentioned this name. As a matter of fact, I know a couple of his pieces." And my wife said, "Oh, stop it." And she said, "That's him, that's him." She blew it. You know, that's funny. So he was amazed. He was amazed and amazing. He came to me and gave me this beautiful hug. And he said, "I thought it could be you, you know, but I wasn't sure." And then we returned to the corner house every day. We spent the entire week in Port Nou at our hotel and went to visit Brendan every day. And Brendan started to be our guide. So in the afternoon we will go and visit with him and discover the beauty of Donegal and all the facilities around Port Nou and Ardara. At night we will join him at the pub. Sometimes the pub was empty, sometimes it was jammed. Sometimes I will jam with him, sometimes we just drink a pint and support him. So we became very good buddies. And the owner of the pub had a few Airbnbs, and he said to my wife and I, he said, "You know, whenever you want, you come back and you stay as long as you want. It will be free for you." So fantastic. So we came back the next year, and Brendan organized a show and a guitar workshop for me the next year in Ardara, and I went to see George Arden. The year after, George Arden and myself were invited to a guitar festival in Cork, and Brendan took a bus 6 hours to go from Donegal all the way down to Cork to be with us and to meet George Arden for the first time. Then he came to see me in Dublin. And so we were connected all the time, and sometimes we email. And I said, "You know, Brendan, I wrote a piece for you." "You wrote a piece for me?" He could not believe it. I said, "Yes." So I played the piece on the phone. "Can you send me the score, Pierre? I would like to learn it." So I sent him the score, and then I recorded this piece in my newest album. And so anyway, we will speak to each other on the phone once in a while. One day I call him, and he has a very, very small voice, very tired voice. He can hardly talk. And so I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Well, I've been following a treatment. I cannot sing anymore, but I hope I'm going to be singing again soon." He didn't look good, didn't sound good at all. He was sick, and I was just hoping he was going to make it, but he did not. His son, 2 months later, his son sent me that message to say his father passed away, and that he had to meet me before he departed this life. I could not believe it, and yet I was sort of expecting this thing based on the last time we spoke together. And here I am with all those beautiful souvenirs. And this tune, where he is? This tune is him. And every time I play this tune, Brendan comes. Thank you so very much. I just played a medley of, the first part was an Irish slow air called Flamorgan Air, followed by one of my tunes called Silent Passenger, named after speaking with a friend from England who moved to Belgium. His name was Dave Evans. Dave was a great guitarist and composer and luthier. And Dave moved to Brussels, and he told me the first 2 years were very special. Everyone around me was talking French and Flemish and Bruxellois, and I understood nothing, and those were the 2 best years of my life. That inspired me the title of Silent Passenger. Well, I would like to play one last song for you tonight. It has been quite a pleasure to share some music and some time with you. Thank you again so much for coming to the show. I told you a little bit in the first set about my roots in Algeria. I mean, I was 4 years old when I moved, but then I grew up listening to the stories my parents, uncles, aunts, sisters, cousins had to share. And of course, we live in France, and France is, there is a lot of people who are from Tunisia. I mean, originally came from Tunisia, from Algeria, from Morocco. We live in France, about 9 million now people, you know. So it's part of our culture. It's completely mixed, all mixed together. And so once in a while, my ancestors ask me to play a tune for them. This is a moment. And I cannot say no. They will not take no for an answer. And I better do it. Otherwise, they come and haunt my sleep.